August 3rd. This is the Town of Tuftonboro Board of Selectmen's meeting. I'd like to read the following item. Members of the public wishing to attend this meeting electronically, please join from your computer, tablet, or smartphone at /global.go-to-meeting.go.com/join/996-433941. You can also listen via telephone. It's toll-free at 1-877-309-2073, access code 996-433-941. Please note that you'll be able to interact during public input using the online service. However, you will only be able to listen to the meeting via telephone. If you have any issues according to this meeting electronically using the aforementioned instructions, please call 603-569-5903. And we're all ready to go? I'd ask that we pledge allegiance to the flag. Please stand, and Clay Gallagher, will you lead us in honoring America?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning. The first order of business is any members of the public on the phone that wish to speak. Okay. And anyone from the public that isn't scheduled to meet with us would like to speak. Okay, moving right along. We'll review and approve the minutes. First up is 7/24/20. I have no issues.
I'll move approval.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Next is 7/27/20. I have no issues.
I'll move approval.
I'll second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0.
Did we do the 17th last week?
The what? Yeah.
Okay.
I think so. Yeah.
Yes. Any other minutes for us to do, Karen? Okay, thank you. Well, we're a little ahead of schedule. Let's start with our appointment for 9/10 Camp Belknap people who would like to speak. Who would like to go first?
I'll go first.
Okay, why don't you come up next to the mic? Just give your name to the secretary.
Don McWhorter, 10 North Chase Point Road.
Okay. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I'd just like to speak on owned property on Chase Point since 1966, and over the years, things have changed with regard to Camp Belknap. There's excessive traffic on the road. I almost got into a car accident last year. I brought it to the attention of the police department 2 or 3 times. Nothing's been done. I really think that they could stage the road and the comings and goings of the campers better than they do. What happens right in that first picture is that the traffic lines up, and if you're coming in, they direct you around the traffic heading down the wrong side of the road. If a counselor at the other end directs a car from one of the campers' parents coming out, and you're going down, you have a potential for head-on collision. And that's what happened to me. And it's happened on numerous occasions. That situation happens every The other complaint I have is just the excessive use of the waterfront. I've never complained the whole time I've been there, but I now have 42 kids camping overnight next door to my house. And the noise and the use is crazy. They have no facilities down there. I have kids going to the bathroom in the woods, not just on my side of the property, I assume. You can see the picture of the beach where they've got their laundry strung out on the beach. And, I don't know, it just seems in years past that I did complain once to Gene Clark about the noise, probably 10 years ago. Back then, he went over and addressed it, and it hasn't been a problem, but it seems like the last 5 to 7 years, you know, it's fine to have a certain number of people congregate over there and you don't notice it, or it isn't a bother, but when you have 40 kids over there, it gets a little crazy. And now I watch them go out to Farm Island. They put 60 kids a night out there. Very easy for me to sit on my dock and count the number of people that go out there. It's too much. When they camp on the beach next to me and they camp out on the island, they yell back and forth. You know, it's just a fact that water travels, noise travels over water a lot more easily than it does over the land. And now with the town approving another 160 campsites along Chase Point Road, with no waste facilities, I don't understand it. And then with the proposed gun range is going to end up behind my house. I'm being taxed on $1 million worth of property alone. It's a residential district. I'm sure that it's an accepted use for the campers to be there. But the gun range, I mean, where do you stop? I don't understand the approach. I don't understand the waste facilities. I don't understand the noise. I think if I'm not against the camp, I like having the camp there, but they're not respectful of other people's needs. When they use the waterfront, they put 120 kids out on that waterfront. Look at the marina. It just isn't, I know it's a public way and I know that they can be there. It's not a responsible use. It's not a considerate use. I mean, for me, it gets crazy after a while. And so I just want to bring those concerns to the board.
I'm not altogether certain what you think we can do about it. First of all, most of the issues you talk about, as far as like Farm Island, campsites, that sort of thing, waste disposal, those are all planning board issues.
I understand.
So that's not something we're going to address here. I could be flippant, which I tend to be sometimes, but you've been there since the 60s, you moved into the problem. You don't get remedy for moving into the problem.
Well, that's my point. I didn't move into that problem, and they've expanded onto the Shore Acres land illegally.
I'm not certain that.
Just like they did on
As
Farm
far as
Island.
the traffic is concerned, that goes hand in hand with summer camps.
They shouldn't be allowed to block a public way. That's a health and safety issue.
Yeah, I suppose you could say that about the 4th of July parade.
No, you can't.
Excuse me, would you let the selectman finish, please?
The point I'm trying to make is that for a 2-month period in the summertime, you're going to have some traffic issues down there. We almost, I don't think we ever did, but joined in with Effingham in their lawsuit with Kent Marist. That decision just tied everybody's hands. And that's,
Say that again?
Pardon me?
Can you repeat that? What you just said?
We almost joined in, but didn't join into the lawsuit that Effingham had with Camp Maris, just as a
Friend of the court.
yeah, friend of the court. We didn't, but the Supreme Court ruled that no, activities at summer camps are out of the purview of taxation and to a certain degree
Pilot,
planning.
payment in lieu of tax.
And you can back that to a pretty regressive court system, but it is what it is. That's the law of the land.
Yeah, I'm very familiar with that.
As far as the shooting range is concerned, that's a planning board issue. And I think they've acquiesced to even Pelicans, everything, as opposed to 22.
Yes.
I mean, the noise factor is going to be a little less. I'm not sure.
So it's your position that you have nothing to say about?
Well, we can drag them in here and lecture them. But as far as having any sort of authority to make them change the way they do business, we don't have any.
I think you do, but if
Well,
you use it,
you know,
I mean, there's health and safety issues. So.
take it to court. I mean, that's your venue. It's not here. I mean, we feel as a board that we don't have the authority to make them change their ways. But if you feel that there's some law out there that they're breaking, then by all means take them to court.
Well, there's code violations over there.
Okay.
It's good.
Excuse me, gentlemen, we're starting to repeat ourselves. Is there anybody else who would like to speak on this issue? I want to be fair. We have 10 minutes. Would anybody else like to speak on this issue? Would you let them speak for a few minutes, and if we have time, we'll get back to you? Thank you. Would you give your name to the secretary, please, and speak into the mic?
Where's the mic over there?
The microphone is right here.
Michael Schrey, 6 North Chase Point Road, River Lake.
If you want, take a seat.
Okay, it's okay. Just following up on what Don is saying here, this is a low residential area, low density residential area. And now the camp wants to bring in a gun range shooting live ammunition based on some theory that because they have a gun range elsewhere in the town, they have the right to move the gun range into a low-density residential area. And I think Don pointed out well that this whole thing violates this low residential area, and that they want to add additional housing. On top of that, you know, the license plate number reads, "Live free or die." Should be camps live free. These camps pay no taxes, no property taxes, no income taxes, no sales taxes, and we're subsidizing these camps. Some of these towns in New Hampshire should make a stand here and attempt to tax these so-called nonprofits. It's about time. And Don is right up that road. That is I believe, is that a state road?
Town.
It's a town road that they feel that they have the right to block the town road. I've never seen a cop show up while the campers are coming in there to help coordinate this traffic if there is an accident. I do, and of course now they want to have rifles, what you call it air rifles, high-powered air rifles shooting live ammunition, BBs, slugs, whatever. I don't understand in the age of electronics why they can't have an electronic rifle using lasers with no discharge at all. Why is it so complicated? And the zoning board, I don't understand how they have the right to move a shooting range from one part of town to another part of town because based on what I have no idea. And of course, the whole strategy of the camp is not current exception, it's current deception. And I think the sewage thing is a big problem also. The town health department, the town should be over there. We're looking around the entire operation of the camp. The new big joke is the so-called groover system, whatever that is, groover system. I bet you the camp has virtually no groovers at all, and yet they're bringing 40, 50, 60 campers to that island and to another part of Tuftonboro, again, with no sanitary facilities at all. How many groovers does the camp own right now? My guess is none. The camp can't afford to put in 10 porta potties around the facilities and act responsibly. the camp does not act responsibly, and the town does not monitor what they're doing. It just seems they're giving some grace period here, because they're a YMCA camp, they can do no wrong. Thank you.
I'd like to speak to, I'm Randy Owen and Farm Island, and I think consistent to what Chip was saying, to rely on the planning board and the zoning board, I did. And I entered into the Farm Island project, which we all, I'm certain, are vividly aware of, and was charged when I learned that the camp had broken law after law after law after law. I listened to Seth Castle say one statement in zoning, lie, 1 week later say something different. That's out saying 7 to 10 kids will be on the island, and then gets to planning, 7 to 10 kids per flight, but 7 to 10 flights. So he's talking about 60 to 80 kids, so he exaggerated life. But anyway, with my reliance on planning board, in the direction that the planning board directed and allowed me to go, I learned that violated zoning. We learned they violated zoning on the Shore Acres property, the Witten property. We learned that they built buildings. We learned that they built tents. They violated the shoreline protection. So I'm sitting there, reaching in my pocket for 10 grand, 40 grand, 50 grand, 60 grand, charging on, paying this thing. And I said, okay, well, they can't be on Farm Island. So let's go. Let's spend $100,000 to approve Farm Island, because I got residential. My zoning will protect me. My planning board will protect me. So I go through $100,000, all because of Seth Castle, just to do what, I don't know. And then I find out that zoning says, yep, planning says, yep, and I lose $100 grand because I'm following the law. The law says you can do residential, you can subdivide, you need 150 feet of frontage. There's a 25-foot do not disturb. I put 50, I did everything. I added, when I needed that, I added. We took the wetlands thing and doubled the calculations for the loons. So then Seth Kelso says, Randy's gonna do this, Randy's gonna do that, Randy's gonna do this. And I get there, and Seth says, all right, we gotta do a regional study, we gotta do a loon study, we gotta do this study and that study. So study after study, every study proved that the camp destroyed stuff. The camp built on what the loon study said was northern Winnipesaukee best loon nesting site. Last year, getting one chick on Winnipesaukee. They destroyed Winnipesaukee, northern Winnipesaukee, their loon nesting site. So you say rely on planning, rely on zoning. I did. I spent $100,000 thinking, well, if the criteria, and say this is Farm Island, my portion's here, their portion. So if the criteria for me to be so strict, regional study, loon study, archaeological study, bang, 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 not one engineer, 3 engineers. I said, okay, well here, where dozens of laws are broken, over in the mainland, another dozen laws are broken. I'm gonna be safe, but not am I safe. Get the zoning, get the planning. Now we go to a Superior Court judge. The Superior Court judge finds on our side. They know the planning board let down. They know the zoning let down. Zoning has laws. Laws are laws. Can't break the laws, So, in any case, I think that you're asking us to rely on something that's not working. But a Superior Court judge finds us correct. And, Don's paying a big tax bill. I'm paying a tax bill. Mike's paying a tax bill, or Mike is. And they're not paying a tax bill, and they're just exploiting us. Exploiting the land, exploiting the loons, exploiting everything. When he pointed at me, he said I was going to do it. So, but anyway, that's my feeling. If zoning,
You're currently in court? Is that what you decided?
yeah, I did a subdivision on Farm Island. I followed every law. No exception, no ZBA exception, no planning board exception, no exception whatsoever. I read those books. I had 3 lawyers read the books. We did the thing exactly what it's been. Because that camp's got some kind of a charge, they put an appeal on Farm Island. we're winning. I mean, their only appeal was to run me out till I died, you know. They just kept appealing, throwing money at the appeal. So the appeal has no merit. But Don filed an appeal against the planning board, and the Superior Court judge looked at this, Don, you're right. The town's not standing up for us. And we are taxpayers. I followed every law. And when I followed the law on my 2/3 of the island, to the nth degree, I'm saying, okay, I'm reaching my pocket, you know, more engineers, specialists, attorneys, and, you know, scientists, and all that stuff. I kept dishing out the money, with the confidence that what I learned, law after law after law was broken. Every study they triggered proved that they can't violate law. So when they're violating law, we came to zoning. We get to zoning, and zoning said, well, we've been doing it for 10 years. It must be all right. I mean, Catholic priests have been raping choir boys for years. Is that all right? No, they've been violating rules for years, and they need to be contained and stopped.
Okay, 2 points. I don't remember seeing a decision from the Superior Court
I don't either.
on the Borders case.
Right.
Secondly, I guess we could have the camp in and lecture. I mean, it's a good year for it. They're closed. They got nothing better to do. But I mean, we're hearing one side of the story. Obviously, your subdivision got approved.
The planning board approved it, and
Yeah, so you're,
But it's currently on appeal,
the subdivision?
yes. The planning board decision, huh? On,
At any rate, okay.
you know, it's
He can't
just
sell
keep the lawyers going, huh?
He can't sell lots until that's done. Is that what?
yeah, and I don't know how many lots or even that's my intention. I mean, I just want the subdivision so I can, you know, have what it's supposed to be, you know. Our position is we're not gonna exploit the land. We have no means to immediately go sell lot. We just wanted the subdivision. I'm 60 years old, and to spend, you know, to bet the farm on the farm, I wanted to know I could subdivide. So if I get sick, I get 3 kids, my partner's he's getting married, he's got kids, so we want the capacity to subdivide. But the action is, you know, I started on Farm Island, I looked at it, it was 58. I'm turning 61 this month. My dad died at 63, and that idiot hasn't let me move. Taken half of my life, half of my remaining life. And all I want to do is build a house out there, you know? My parents built in 1959. Don's dad had a camp. I mean, you know, we had camps on islands. We did. And I understand that Farm Island is the tail end of what's available for one to talk about. All I did was go to the town books, go to the state regulations, and I followed them. And when I followed them, I learned that my opponent, for whatever ego he's got, broke every law in the book. So I'm thinking, okay, I'll dish out that $100,000 because they're not going to be on Farm Island, because they're not supposed to be on Farm Island. That's what the law says. And the law says they're not supposed to exploit 80 acres of Russ Whitman's property without.
Sir, thank you very much. We're 5 minutes over, and we got other people to do it. Anybody else who has not spoken like to speak? Is there anybody on the line? No one wishes to speak? Any questions or comments from the board?
Yeah, I think the only comment I'd have is I need to hear the other side as well. They can't litigate it here in front of the selectmen because we don't have any power to resolve this issue. So the court is the proper place. We haven't gotten a decision from Superior Court. I don't know when that's going to come forward.
Well, everything's
We
moving
don't really have
slowly
any
because
direction from the
of
court.
COVID. Yep.
What we're supposed to enforce.
Well, what I would like to do is I'd like to say thank you for citizens and taxpayers and members of the public coming in. Yes, sir.
Do you think I should have 5 more minutes?
No, sir. Out of courtesy, I need to move the meeting along to other people. You've had 5 minutes more than what was scheduled. If you do want to make a comment, could you put it in writing, please?
Yeah, that'll be fine.
Okay.
I really would appreciate it.
Well, thank you for your appreciation, okay? Okay, thank you. The next appointment is landfill monitoring bid. Thank you and be safe, folks.
Project YMCA in front of the yellow top.
It's only time.
There you go.
What's that?
A draft of this bid should be in purple folder.
Right here?
And, as you speak, if you
That's a copy,
fill in the dates and things for me.
that's a copy of the email that, Karen.
Did you see it, the sample bid?
That's it.
Get one of them ready for the judge.
I'll find out as we move along what's going on, right?
Okay, first of all, I'd like to, for those that don't know, it's in the paper, Dave Allwine, who works, for the Stantec and works, for our contract, his son had a bad accident, diving into the water and either hitting bottom or a rock or something like that, and, had very critical condition, was transported down to Massachusetts to a hospital, and I think he's doing okay, but
Our sympathies go out to him.
yeah, very much so. Hopefully he will
Well,
improve,
Dave
keep improving.
also has been the Boy Scout leader, right?
Right.
Like this, so
Right.
he's been a member of the community. Thank you for advising us.
We were asked to get together and to come up with a 3-year request for bid. I went to Dave again and asked Dave to please do a timeline chart for the specifics for the bid, because it varies. There's 2 tasks, groundwater and landfill monitoring. He's divided the 2 tasks. He's gotten very detailed down to the specifics. Over the past 8 or 9 years, I've worked very hard with him at trying to control the costs of the landfill monitoring, and that goes down to specific of whatever sample is taken at what site, what depth, what well, to even get down to include phone calls, where we've straightened out the billing so that all the billing occurs in the budget year, in the calendar budget year, which is very difficult to do with the requirements from DES for our permit, and how to monitor them and how the lead time it takes to do that and then get the report in on time. And he's been very responsible and has met all those tasks. He came back with again a very specific draft for the bid proposal, request for bid.
Thank you.
It's divided down to 2 specifics: the water quality monitoring, and under task 1 on page 1 and 2, and then task 2, closure monitoring of the landfill. Very specific requirements, which detail out down to the month that the sample has to be taken in order to meet the timeline to get the report in on time, and do all the specifics for reporting. The page I want to bring your attention to is page 3 at the bottom of the page. This is comparing, and I talked about it before numerous times, this is comparing apples to apples and not apples to oranges, like a lot of people want to do in every subject to cloudy the water. This is the only way to do apples to apples and make sure that when we get bids from numerous companies, they're bidding on the exact same thing, the exact same specifications, and what the cost is gonna be for those specifications. And he's broken it down by task, 1 and 2, and by calendar year for the requirements. And they have to get this worksheet from Karen, and they have to enter a specific price under each one of these categories. And then you can compare, more adequately, what each company's bid is and what it means, okay? That sheet is very important. We came forward with a proposal, and Larry had an additional proposal. This is a draft of that. And what I propose, and Steve, I think Steve added in a section on paragraph 1. If you refer to the paragraph in the yellow highlight, I think is what was added under paragraph 1 in the end, which I totally concur with. And again, I want to lead the conversation with, I don't want anybody to get the wrong impression that I am against additional testing, additional sites, additional, if we have an issue and we want to find out what the issue is, I have absolute support for doing that. But that should be separate and distinct from putting out this 3-year bid for a contract for landfill monitoring on what the given requirements are today. We have a permit that was issued by DES that has specific requirements to do. Our company is doing exactly what those requirements are, the current company, and has gone to the effort to list them out and show what those specific requirements are and how to meet that timeline-wise. So my intention is to keep the landfill monitoring budget line under the transfer station specific. That specific requirement is to put a bid for a contract to meet the requirements that DES has put on us via our permit. So in order to do that, then the bid should be I would delete the second paragraph, and there's no, I'm not trying to be critique-wise of the contents of the second paragraph, but that has nothing to do with our current contract and permit, okay? If we want to enter that type of material later on, then we should do an evaluation, request an additional contract with an additional specific cost to meet those results. What's accomplished in paragraph 2, proposed paragraph 2, is if you go down to the fourth line from the bottom on the fourth paragraph, the scope of work shall also include notification to the town of any abnormal finding accompanied by a remedy solution within XX days/weeks of discovery. Okay, that encompasses any additional requirements that are brought up. And a good example of that happened even while Dave Longwine was heading down to Massachusetts to take, get to the hospital and care after his son. He messaged us with information that the state had redone the law on PFAS and has going to be effective in 2022. That the requirements are going to change some, okay? And that's exactly what
we want him to do. And then he will, again, propose options for solutions. And if we see that that's going to be an annual ongoing event, then we will identify it, study it, get the specific cost to accomplish that. And if it's going to be an ongoing event, then we can add it to the budget for monitoring at that time. But I strongly and adamantly feel that the original proposal that Karen drafted up, with the addition of wetland complex and over a large stratified aquifer, is okay. Add that to paragraph 1. I would delete paragraph 2, and I would delete the first 2 words in paragraph number 4 because it was a typo. But I would recommend that draft, and the reason being is to keep it. These things can get out of control very quickly, and costs can get out of control very quickly. I think we should be open and available and flexible enough to do an analysis of additional requirements, but I think we should keep them separate from this specific bid. Because when you get 10, 12, 13 proposals in from different companies, if you aren't following exactly what's on this sheet, number 3, if you aren't following exactly what's on this sheet with the specific costs, then you can't compare the companies to companies and do it accurately.
Right, but we can change the elements of page 3 however we want.
Absolutely, but again, you have to have a starting point. Our starting point is what we have accomplished, where we are with the contract and controlling the specific cost of the contract. If we want to add additional things on, that should be separate from going out for bid for this.
Yes, so we,
Go ahead.
well, we've got 2 different but potentially interrelated things that we're talking about.
Correct.
One is we have a requirement through our license to do this testing and post-closure monitoring.
Right.
Which we have been doing with Stantec for a number of years.
Right.
Right. And that's a requirement that we have to the state.
Specific requirement.
That we have to do to keep our permit with the state operational.
Correct.
Which we don't want to not have happen. Right. And the requirements that the state gives us under this license can and do change from time to time, even during the license cycle, where they'll come out and say, oh, by the way, we got something else, we want you to do this. And so it's incumbent on us. Job 1 is to make sure, with respect to this, that we do all of the testing and the monitoring and the reporting that the state requires under the permit.
Correct.
We also have potentially other things going on up there. We had this situation with water with a sheen on it, coming up down at one area. Is it a seep out of the landfill? Is it something else? I'm not sure. What are we finding there? That's not directly related to our permit. It's a concern to everybody in that if we have something that's bad going on, we ought to get to the bottom of it.
Absolutely.
So anything as it relates to that, or something else that's a concern to anybody that we decide we want to do some investigation on, is separate from what we need to do.
Exactly.
To maintain, to stay in the good graces of the state with respect to our permit. right?
Right. That's exactly what I,
You know, I think when we put this out to bid last year, one of the problems that we ran into and in the whole process was trying to meld these two things that the same people may be able to do both of them, but this piece is something that's required under our permit. We gotta make sure that we do that. Anything different beyond that is basically up to what we decide.
correct, and it could be the same company, it could be a different company.
Right.
You could decide to put it out to bid to a different company. Or it could be the same company. But the only way to control the budget line and control the budget line costs is to keep it separate. My opinion.
Yep.
And you know, I've watched the creep, you know, you talk about mission creep, you talk about, I've watched telephone charges for $40 or $50. You got 3 or 4 different people calling, one company, now you're gonna have, you know, dozens of charges that can get out of control in a heartbeat. And then you have, you know, one thing added in at the last minute, which screws up the rest of the report, for the actual report that's due DES for the monitoring requirements we currently have. I'm a military guy. I believe in very distinct borders of responsibility, and you know, it's the best way of doing it as I see it. And I've got no, as a matter of fact, I would support any additional testing for additional items or to clarify or to develop a course of action. But when you do that, you start a whole new parameter of what you're doing. And if that's going to be consistent and yearly and ongoing, then you take that package, you add it to the contract.
There's a parallel with other departments. Does the fire department go to 3 fires at once? No, it's 3 separate fires, 3 different people in charge, 3 different sets of equipment.
But it all falls under one fire
It all
department.
comes under one budget.
Right.
Same thing with our road projects.
Right.
Lang Pond Road is a separate engineer, separate process, separate item in the budget than Federal Corner Road or Dame Road or whatever. So we're tying into that. Clay, could I ask, kind of rush?
Yes, yeah.
Again, you're eloquent. Steve, you'd like to speak?
Larry?
Larry Gill, could you come up next to the microphone, Larry? How you doing?
Good.
Good to see you again.
Good to see you. I guess I would want to start out how we, the Conservation Commission, got involved in this. We responded to a written complaint, a written notice from an abutter, hunter, of seeing some water at the base at the outlet of the landfill. We took the pictures, we looked at it, there was no question that that was the seep. We looked into the records that this town has been compiling since at least 1992. There was a sampling point right at what is called the seep, and it is connected to our landfill. No question about it. Stantec, at that time, about 2013, thereabouts, petitioned to have that site altered, removed as a sampling point, because it is not an easy place to sample. The reason being that as that water comes out of the land, almost like, you know, a groundwater seep, it comes in contact with the air. So the water that was prior to that does not receive air. It's pretty much used up all of the air, all of the oxygen in the decomposition. When it gets exposed to the air, now different things, there's a whole different set of chemistry that's involved. So it precipitates out, that's why you get the orange color, that's iron. There was, way excessive amounts of arsenic, not sure what that sources were. As we got involved in looking into it, they had stopped sampling. That because, again, of citing the difficulties. Well, you lost some important information there because that is the connection of the landfill to that surface water body, that pond that's there, the beaver pond. We, meaning the town, hired Sanborn Head to do a review of, since 1992 and whatever prior, I don't know how many data points or information is prior to that time, about that entire site. The town has been collecting that information for 20 plus years. We found very, very little actual correspondence from this town questioning anything that was said in those reports. Don't have a lot of people to do that. The Conservation Commission does have the capability of doing that. That second opinion basically is that it could be the town's roadmap about what to look for next. And I agree with Clay's issues about trying to keep the mission the same and certainly going forward with a contract. What Stantec did not do was they didn't tell you that the materials that we use to cap that landfill is called a material called short paper fiber. It comes from paper mills, and it's sort of like the residue. They use that as a binder and as a soil supplement to cap. It has it acts almost like a clay. That had PFAS in it. That's what you didn't get from Stantec. I didn't know that at the time. Sanborn Head was able to point that out. We had talked to Sanborn Head trying to set up a resampling, and you guys know this history, of that site with plenty of time for them to coordinate it. They were willing to pay the additional amount, it was $400 for that sample. They didn't do it. They didn't tell us why they didn't do it. They just didn't do it. I went down there with the site, with that guy to be there, said, what's that sample? They didn't collect it. Nobody from Stantec said, well, geez, we can't do it right now, but we'll make arrangements. They didn't do that. We met with you guys later on. They still didn't have that information. That to me is an issue. Well, I guess the last thing I was saying is, again, we have some an ability to begin to look at some of these things critically from the town's perspective, from the town's rights of spending thousands upon thousands of dollars monitoring. Yes, you have to do the compliance. I'm not arguing that point, not having any fault with that point. What I'm saying is that there are things that the town could be doing. Are they going to cost money? Yes. That would better place the town and have more control over what's going on at that site. Right now, you don't. The PFAS is an open issue. The latest statement that I found from the state is that there are 4 parameters of there's PFAS and there's PFOS, and then there's another one, and then there's what they would call it, like the sum of all the PFAS components. So there's 4 of them. 3 of them are already exceeded at our landfill. The 4th one, for all intents and purposes, it's virtually identical to the threshold standard by. It's slightly lower by a couple of points. And you're talking about parts per trillion. that is gonna come back. Right now, there is a court case that has, challenged those lower standards. And so they defaulted back to the 70, I think it's 70 parts per trillion overall, and they don't really distinguish. If the court decides in favor, of the plaintiffs, then it'll probably stay 70. If they decide in favor of what the, New Hampshire DES says, we're gonna go back to those limited standards, and we have 3 exceedances in those alone. We have another, chemical that, causes me concern, this 1,4-dioxane. That's a pretty nasty, chemical. Those are there. And what Sanborn had provided some things you could look at in the short term. I don't know that they're going to cost $1 gazillion, so depending on what you did, to begin to try to narrow down whether or not what's coming out of that landfill, either through that seep or other means or other ways, and the results that we're sampling for are actually telling us what's going on there. And the state. The state has to kind of one size fits all. That way, we don't have to do that. We have to monitor what they say, but we could be looking and being proactive about the resources that we have downstream. The town has spent a lot of money trying to protect the Great Marsh. That is downgrading from this resource. Okay.
Okay, a couple of comments. First of all, it's a delicate balance to, I appreciate Clay's proposal of limited mission creep, but limited mission creep is always butting up against working the contract. And having been in the commercial sector a lot, the last thing you want your workers to do is say, well, that's not my contract, I'm not going to do that. We need to be a little more flexible than that. I don't think there's any known remedy for a PFAS polluted landfill other than completely replacing the top, which would be excessively expensive. So I don't know, the DES may prevail in court, but how are you going to enforce it? It's a rhetorical question. You don't have to answer it.
Here's a little comment to it. There have been bills introduced into Senate Bill 496 is one to provide a funding mechanism to look at landfill issues associated with PFAS. They logically are tying it closer to their proximity to a public water supply. So there are some cases like that. That's being challenged. There's 2 bills, and you know how it goes. And you know, they're being challenged. They have to rectify it. So there is some money possible in terms of trying to get a grant to look at some of this stuff, which is certainly something we would try to explore.
Things of this scope generally are in a public-private partnership arena, and there's no public in a landfill. It just doesn't work that way. Moving on, in the Sanborn Head recommendations, I can kind of understand what they're saying is that you've got test wells available, like test well number 1, which is upstream of the landfill, which we're not testing at all. And whether or not to do different levels of testing, levels meaning depth, to try to get a handle on how much of this stuff is sinking below the current test wells that we're testing. So I can appreciate that. Also, testing at the Beaver Dam is going to give you the end result of what's coming out of the place, because that's where it's going. I don't know that, I don't know, personally, I don't know whether we need to expand the budget excessively, but I think we need to adjust the testing regime a little bit. and we need to not have our heads in the sand. If we've got stuff that comes up like that, that's seep, we need to, I mean, I would need more information. If I've got the citizen sitting there complaining, I would need more information than what I had from Santac, what was going on. I mean, Larry kind of described it, but that doesn't really give us any reasoning. You know, something hits the air and it turns orange. I don't find that as a satisfactory explanation. And I would want, for the amount of money what we're spending, I want those guys to be able to give me a cogent answer as to what the hell's going on. That's all.
You have a comment? I have a comment, but I'll let you go first.
I guess there are lots of things that we could test for, beyond what's part of our requirement for the DES permit. And what we have to do for them can change at any time based upon what they decide is going to be different. Additional testing for other things beyond that is fine. So how far do you go? Where do you go? Does it make sense to roll that in as a catch-all under our landfill monitoring contract, or are we better off to select somebody that has specific expertise to deal with the issue? The PFAS in the cap that we've been made aware of. As I understand it, when Marlboro closed their landfill, they took a different approach than we did. They mined the landfill and took all the old stuff out of there. Cost them $1.5 million, something like that, back whenever they did that. So all the old stuff went. I don't know how much we spent to close the landfill. I'm sure it was nowhere near that amount. But as you start looking at, let's just play what if. What if next year the state says, all of that PFAS in your cap is bad stuff. Got to get rid of it. So you take that off and recap it with something different. And then 20 years from now, somebody does some testing and says, there's something in that new cap that you put on the landfill that's bad.
And that's what happened.
Right.
They were trying to, the state was trying to work with a very big industry in the state of New Hampshire. What we had tried to do, my wordsmithing is surely lacking, but what we were trying to do in some of the modifications that we had was to try to get in this next contract, to take a look at what Sanborn had said, look at what Stantec had said in the past history, and say, of these, this you could do in a cost-effective manner. This is the amount. This is how we would prioritize those recommendations and observations in terms of getting a better handle on exactly how much, how adverse is the landfill to the downstream resources. That's kind of what I was trying to get at through that second paragraph.
And I think it makes sense, and I'm going to suggest that just be handled separately. That we do the normal landfill monitoring. We got something different we want to do, and we handle it as a separate task. It may be done by the same company. It may be done by a different company. I'm here very clearly, and I've heard from you before, that you don't feel that the current contractor has done us well over the years in terms of providing us with some information that would be helpful to us. The other side of that, as I understand it, is that over the years that they've been providing the service for us, they have kept us in compliance with our permit, which is job one in what they're doing. There's 1,000 other questions you could ask out there and things you could look at, and maybe we should be doing some of those as well. I don't want to be saying we ought to stick our head in the sand, but the ultimate solution to the landfill thing is maybe to do what Moltenboro did, just dig it all up and get it out of here and go back to what was there before. But I'm not suggesting we go there. So here's what we have today. How do we get smarter about dealing with situation in terms of spending some money to do some testing in ways that will give us a better insight into what's actually going on down there.
I'd like to throw a word in the water here.
Yeah, that's fine. Yep.
Steve Wingate?
I did. Okay, I just want to point out.
Excuse me.
RID,
I probably should be.
about 20 minutes, so, I just wanted to say, if you look at all the wells and the results from the wells, it's pretty obvious what's coming out of that landfill is coming out in one direction. So if you look at the test well where it's coming out, we would fail the permit. So the only reason we pass right now is because all the data is average. To me, that says we need to be looking into it. Maybe it's okay. There may be less expensive ways, maybe cutting off that flow with an impervious barrier right in that area, which I think might work. So we need some answers, and it could be more cost effective to get them from one source. The same person that's doing, the same company that's doing the monitoring, they see the data, they have people in the field, they understand the situation better that way. So you could get, we think we might be able to get better service that way. That's basically what it comes down to, is we're trying to say, direction we're going is do additional things, and that's your decision. We would be satisfied to know that we're going to continue to look at this situation and determine whether it's important enough to do something about it. And
So maybe,
Not to be argumentative, but, the fact of the matter is,
Excuse me. Speak.
the fact of the matter is that when some looking was done at this before, you guys weren't satisfied with the information you were getting from the contractor. So when you got another guy that gave you some different data, so which to me says that trying to combine it all together doesn't necessarily work. Unless we're going to make the monitoring contract contingent on somebody that might be acceptable for doing all this other stuff that we might want to do.
And we had kind of talked about bifurcating it anyway.
Right.
So I can appreciate putting this out with a couple of modifications that reflect what the recommendations were, like eliminating any testing at MW2 and MW3. And then putting that out, getting that set, but then having an additional scope of work that would be not that much, really. Test level 1 and then down at the Beaver Dam.
Well, these recommendations about eliminating, we don't have any control over that. That's in the state permit, right?
We can eliminate those.
We can?
We can eliminate testing those two wells and not violate our permit. Because all we're doing is static living water testing in those two wells.
What you can do, as Stantec did with the seep site. What you can do is Stantec did with the seep site. That was, if you look in the record, it's SW1. That was sampling the seep. They petitioned to change that.
Okay, so we don't have any control over it. We can go to the state and say, we want to do this,
Okay.
right?
All right.
But as the permit stands today, this is what's in the, this is what we do.
Excuse me,
Stantec is DES.
are you done speaking?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Stantec and DES talk. We are going to give you this permit if you meet all the requirements. Stantec, what are you going to do to meet the requirements? They said, we have this well, this well, this well, this well. We're going to do all this monitoring in order to meet the requirements that you put out for that specific permit. So they talk together before the permit is issued. You fulfill all these requirements, and then we will give you the permit. Give the town the permit. So you can't just pull a monitoring requirement off without getting approval from DES to pull that monitoring requirement off, and they'll still validate the permit. It's just like it's like when we did for the pandemic. We put all the things we were going to do, we sent them to DES, they approved it. You can't modify your.
But you've got Fox and Hen House here. You got the guy that's getting the contract, writing the contract. And so we don't have anything to say about it?
No, we do, but then you'd have to go say.
We'd have to convince Stantec.
We'd have to say, Stantec, can we do this?
Right.
They would go to DES, they were gonna remove this well, would that still meet all the qualifications for the permit?
I'd like to say something if I could. I wear two hats today. First of all, I'm a selectman, but my family owns property that adjacent that. Tuftonboro is very fortunate. This guy has hundreds of thousands of dollars projects dealing with hazmat and cleaning properties. You're a former selectman in Plastow. This is your career. You, sir, have 4 or 5 projects and worked in the environment and forestry business. And then there's Clay. Clay, how many air bases were you on in your career?
16 or so.
And how many of them had hazardous issues, much more serious than what we're talking about here?
Well, probably all.
Yes, because they were bombers with nuclear weapons.
Right.
And they got handled, didn't they?
Yeah.
So what I say is, I as a selectman, I as a citizen, I as a taxpayer, I'm pleased that I got some real intelligent, articulate, friendly people here, and I say thank you. I'll make the following comments. As of August 18th, 72 years ago, my family bought the property that abuts what we're talking about. I care about that section of town. When I spoke to Sanborn Head and I spoke to Stantec when they did their reports, they weren't aware that there were 2 junkyards in my lifetime with all kinds of stuff just poured into the ground within walking distance of the seep. They were not aware of, as you go up the power line to Transformer Hill, that there was a major structure on the power line on the transfer station side that is now gone. I know from my safety classes, it's only been in my recent adult lifetime that transformers no longer have PCBs. I also asked them, would it be any of these things, including the lining of the transfer station? And they said, yeah, we'd have to look into all of them. That is not a negative at either of those 2 companies. They were not aware of it. The next thing is, the SEEP is on private property, and it's public information. The landowner is looking to sell and has approached the town. I'd be willing to consider that, and we have a potential issue under our complete control and not on private property. The next thing is, each testing situation that goes on in Tufton Borough, in my mind, needs to stand alone. There's Mirror Lake water testing. There's the RIB and the overflow into the river. There's the Lake Basin study that's being done. There's the DES closing of the transfer station, and there's others. Both Sanborn Head and both DES and Stantec, according to my contacts at DES, speak DES. I have confidence in both of those companies. The other thing is, when I take my car to have body work done, I go to the auto body shop. I want the oil changed or work on my transmission, I go to another specialist. They all work on cars. I believe in diversification. I believe in getting different opinions. I'm going to support a proposal. Is anybody who wants to come forward with a testing for the SEEP, please come up with a proposal like this, and I'll put it on the agenda for you. Thank you.
So is it we have to get something out, obviously.
Yes.
It is our intention to put what's in front of us out with the editorial changes to the
Yes.
okay.
So, I'll make that as a motion. We do need to include two things that have X's in here. One is, a notification period after an abnormal finding of a certain number of days or weeks. I have no idea what is reasonable there. The other thing is we need a due date for bids.
Well, let me ask the experts here. What's a reasonable number of days? Quote, the scope of work shall include notification of the town, to the town of any abnormal findings, accompanied by a remedy solution with X blank days / weeks of discovery. Who wants to submit a number? What's
I would
appropriate?
say within 7 to 10 days. And I would say, what was the second part of that? Provide a solution. I would say options for a solution.
Yes.
Yeah, I think you have to break it up a little more.
Right.
I mean, a 7-day notification of
Abnormal
findings is great, but
Do you have
I don't think anybody can fix it in 7 days.
Do you have a problem with 20 days to cover both comments? So it would read, the scope of work shall include notification to the town of any abnormal findings accompanied by a remedy solution within 20 days of discovery.
I'd break it up.
I'd prefer to say, the scope of work shall also include notification to the town of any abnormal findings within 10 days, whatever, pick a number, 10
Okay,
days
10 days,
of discovery, period.
yes.
Mhm.
And then say,
Options for a solution.
yeah,
Accompanied by a remedy solution within,
remedies for solution to the abnormal findings shall be
30 days,
within, what do you want to do, 21 days?
30 days, 20 days, what? Pick, what's reasonable? Can
I'd
they
say
do it in 30 days?
I'd say 30, but I'd put options for solutions
Right.
with a cost.
Well, yeah, it is. I mean, we can't, this is an RFP, so we're not gonna draw it out quite so specifically.
Right.
I think if we give them time limit.
Did you guys nod that 20 days is reasonable? What do you
Thought I heard 30.
I thought we were
30?
Yeah.
Okay.
10 and 30.
Yeah.
The next part, we're all set on the notification. Now, submissions for consideration are due what date?
Well, it should be in time to look at all the inputs
use and still meet whatever budget line, or budget requirements you have for next year's budget.
Would Tuesday, September 8th be reasonable? Larry, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Yeah, I got it. Thanks.
We have a long meeting because that's election day,
It's election day?
September 8th.
Oh, it's coming right up.
Primary election, yeah. Yep. So that's a month.
Well,
The submissions, we could consider it on the 8th, but if we're gonna do it on the 8th, the submissions have gotta be in previous Friday.
okay.
So is a month long enough to give these guys? No? You think it's be further out than that?
I was off, the end of October.
And they did the April testing?
Yeah.
Okay,
All right.
so we don't have to
So
worry about that.
you think people need, contractors need 90 days to put together a proposal?
Well, how long did it take for the last proposal? And that was a 1 year. That was a 1 year.
Not to do the testing, to write their bid.
Yeah, the bid for.
I don't recall off.
But this is a much tighter,
Yeah. I think so too. I think they could do it a lot easier and a lot quicker because we specified.
right. So I'm gonna suggest that we have the bids due the end of September, okay? That's 7 weeks,
Pick a day.
you know, if, Friday the 25th,
25
Yep.
at 2 p.m.
whatever your,
Well, let's do it in the morning.
no,
we're just.
right, they're gonna be here, and then we're gonna open them at our meeting on Monday the 28th. Yeah.
Does that mean we have to pick on the 28th?
No,
No,
No.
it might, but.
right, right,
Give us a little time to.
right.
I'd say we'd award the contract in September, if that's the.
Sure.
Well, by the first week of October.
That would be your last Monday, the 28th.
Right, so bids will be opened, at the meeting on the 28th. And,
The motion would state the following. His first figure item is the scope of the work, et cetera, will be notified. For any abnormal findings will be 10 days. A separate sentence saying accompanied by the remedy and solution, correct?
Right. I'll wordsmith
30 days.
mhm.
The third thing is that the bids will be due September 5th by 2 p.m. 25th by 2 p.m. And the bids will be opened September 28th.
Right.
Good. And you'll wordsmith that, but substantively, is that your motion?
It is.
I'll second.
Now, is there any further discussion?
I thought it was Bill's motion at some point, but.
Yeah, but
Could
you're
be
okay.
It's yours now.
I think, any further discussion?
They don't get to talk about motions.
Okay, the chair is going to ask for a vote. All those in favor of the motion on the table, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 3-0.
Can I throw out two quick things?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I got a couple of quick things for you too,
Okay.
just so you know.
Larry's on his way out, to a makeup for the tour that
RIB, yeah.
that we had, and plus, at least two of our other members, maybe three, will also be doing that, so we'll be much better informed. Dave Ford has asked us, to have a special meeting where he can present the permit, application. I suspect, I asked him, but he didn't answer. I suspect that he's required to do that, and that gives us an opportunity to respond.
Is this a new permit application?
Yeah, to do the rehab work
Okay.
that they showed us.
And are we a party in that permit application now?
Only I think that he is required to inform the local conservation commission. There are some permits that require that. And it's just an information. And then we can respond to DES if we have concern.
Is there room enough to hold that meeting here if we social distance ourselves? And if people,
I told him that.
and if people want to call in, they can?
That's possible. I told them that we have been meeting remotely, and that because I have secretary and some members who are concerned about, being in public, that, we would continue doing that. So the primary meeting would be,
So it'd be a virtual meeting.
a go-to meeting.
I have a problem with
We
that.
could do the hybrid, you know. I can be in here with anybody else who wants to attend.
Well, one of the limitations on the virtual meetings is not everybody is a virtual person. I mean, it has the technology and
Well stated.
and that sort of thing. And so if a meeting can be done like we do our meetings, where you have the camera and the call in for anybody that can't be here, but the basic meeting is a live meeting, then that addresses the issue for people that don't have the technology skills to participate otherwise.
The other thing I don't know how to do, I don't know whether Karen knows how to do it, but putting documents that show up on a viewer's screen, do you know how to do
There
that?
is an option to do that, and I can fix that.
Because there would be, you know, the things that Dave has,
Schematics.
and,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
that would be helpful if people could see him. And, you know, that while he's speaking, he could point out, maybe with a cursor, you know, what he's talking about.
I'm thinking outside the box. They have a huge hall called the Great Hall. Is it legal for Tufton Borough to hold a Tufton Borough meeting in another location?
I don't know that.
And I'm thinking outside the box to accommodate everybody.
He's asked me to have a meeting. He didn't ask us to attend a meeting. So I'd have to.
So we have to remember, you know, the way this is currently set up, we have no remedy at all. We're not included on the permit, although we are the affected party. So DES needs to set up a meeting with our Conservation Commission or with the Selectmen. We need to be a party to this. Or what we could consider here as Selectmen, and you can tell Dave Ford that, we could consider filing a cease and desist order until we become a party to this. And I'll tell you that my problem with this whole deal, or part of my problem, is when I was doing my little mountain up there and I'm now selling out the conservation over in Center Harbor, I impacted a seasonal wetland and had to go up there personally and plant 35,000 seedlings and put hay all over the place to remedy that. Wolfboro is currently killing Witten Pond. What are they doing about it? Nothing. You know, all of the impact is flowing downstream, and they don't have any. We spent $45,000 on a baseline study. Ask Dave how much money they're going to spend updating that.
Well, I've already started writing a proposed, comment, and the crux of my comment would be that, Wolfboro has the burden, to satisfy Tufton Borough residents that they're not harming 19 Mile Brook, and that, we should have an annual testing monitoring system that Tufton Borough approves of, in order to satisfy that. And I think Wolfboro would be willing to do it.
Really?
Well, all right, the sticky piece there is the state doesn't see it that way, okay? So,
DES doesn't see it that
well,
way.
that's why I say this.
Another
The state doesn't see
why-
that, but again, it's similar to what we have with our landfill monitoring. We get a permit from DES that says this is what we have to do, okay? Your budding properties that are affected by it, they're within the town, but they're,
Right.
all right, but they have no direct say. So the DES permit for the groundwater discharge goes to the generator, and the other party in it is the state DES. And affected other parties, we can talk to them, but what Wolfboro has to satisfy is DES's requirement. So,
Okay.
I agree with you.
I can appreciate that's the technical position. We could, if we had the political will, shut that down for an extended period of time, with no hope of ever winning a complete shutdown.
Right.
Just to be a burr in their saddle.
Well, that's
But-
right.
But
That's
there's
right.
there's no impetus on their side to accept responsibility for what happens in Tuftonboro, because they're just the emitter. Get them to sign a hold harmless. If there's ever pollution in that stream, they're gonna pay to fix it. They won't do that either. I mean, it's just frustrating to me that,
Well, they have a DES representative that's been part of this.
yeah, they come and see you?
No,
No. Well, tell them today, okay, you want a conservation, make sure DES is there as well. Have them there. And if they can't show up, then we don't have a meeting. And we need all the parties involved. And are we being televised? There's certain members of the Wolfboro delegation working on that I wouldn't trust as far as I could throw them. So you're gonna end up with a deal that's flawed to begin with. Anyway, I've ranted enough. It's not you need to just say, we're not happy.
It's my understanding that 2 years ago, Dave Ford put money in the budget to help co-fund,
Yeah, where'd that go?
and
it went towards the purchase of that property.
yes,
Yeah.
the budget committee changed it to another line. I am aware of that.
And
Okay.
they felt that they just, you know, they had to find that money somewhere so they can control the site.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, in that position, I think I would have been thinking the same thing.
Okay.
But we still have the same opportunity. I think we can talk them into doing it.
Yeah, you could, I can't.
We can't drive them to make them do it, but I think we can talk them into it.
Yeah, we should be able to make them do it though, because it is Tuftonboro and they're not from Tuftonboro. But I'm sure you'll do the best you can.
The nice thing is a work in progress.
The nice thing is it's gonna fail again, and then we'll just have to go through this
Right.
ad nauseum.
I haven't heard back from Dave, but I propose two options: a special meeting next Monday, the 10th, or incorporated in a normal meeting, Monday of the 17th, which would be at 6:30. I would put that on the agenda first. So, I'm gonna.
Either way, I like
I'll
his
be out there right
idea
now, hoping to
for us that are not computer literate.
And you still have a secretary?
Yes,
Okay. Because that may change, I think, I don't know.
she didn't have to continue, but she's continuing until replaced. As of now, she's still getting better at what she's doing too.
We did interviewing her, I was the selectman member, and there are candidates out there, and we probably should sit down at some point and chat about that.
Okay.
I don't think there's a willingness to go on forever by your current secretary.
Right. Well, thank you. Travel safe.
One more item, Old Home Day, we are thinking about moving the scavenger hunt down to, 19 Mile Bay, on the town property.
Everything's going to the beach till.
Well, and the reason is because he moved everything else to the beach, right? So this, having the scavenger hunt up at Central Park when nobody's up there is,
Yeah,
yeah.
and it would be on this existing snowmobile trail, which is got vegetation up to here, so we'd like to break out a trail.
To work with Dennis, because he's been tasked with the job of working with the snowmobile club to get the trail out through the beach in the winter. He's already making contact there, so feel free to work with him. The snowmobile trail is already worked with him, and they've also built some bridges in town.
We probably asked to put some cones up to, have a little entrance there, you know, take away one parking space or something.
Sure.
So that people can walk through safely to it.
Yep.
Okay,
happen.
Travel safe,
Yep.
sir.
Okay, thank you.
Next is signature file.
Can I have one?
Go ahead, sir.
We put out for bid opening for an employee, for him. We got one response. No responses from the ad, but we had one response come in. I would like to, very favorable. I'd like to get a background check done on him and, pending results of the background check and any other requirements, I will recommend approval. I'll put together a paper.
Could you start a folder for this gentleman and handle that with the police?
Diane does.
Diane? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right?
Be safe.
All right.
Thanks, Clay.
That's fine. She did it however you want to do it. Diane did it.
Let's go to the signature file. This is a letter, and I'll read it into the record, to Kathleen Cuddy Egbert, Superintendent of Governor Wentworth School District. The Board of Selectmen extends our gratitude to Governor Wentworth Regional School District for making space available in the Tuftonboro Central School for town elections. On Friday, September 4th, we request access to the gymnasium for polling place setup. On Tuesday, September 8th, we request use of the gymnasium and adjacent restrooms from 7 a.m. until ballots have been counted, approximately 10 p.m., as well as use of a small classroom in the proximity to the gymnasium from 8 to 6. On Wednesday, September 8th, we request access to the gym for the removal of election equipment.
The 9th. Isn't the election the 8th?
Yeah,
So it'll be the 9th, we want to take the stuff down.
right.
Yes.
The Monday.
Yes.
Okay. So it's the 9th to take things down?
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Rather than sign this copy, can we move that it's okay to sign it, and when it becomes available?
So,
Just to understand, are the elections on the 8th or I have that wrong?
Yes.
the election's on the 8th, so the 9th, Wednesday the 9th would be when we would want access to remove the election equipment. Yeah, so, right, so I'll move approval.
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0. This is notice of appointment of Priscilla C. Keaton in the office of town clerk for the position of assistant town clerk. And there's no date of, no, it's just an appointment, correct?
An employee at will.
Okay.
There's no term involved.
I'm more than willing to sign this. You had some interviews?
Yeah, we interviewed three candidates. There was a significant amount of debating at the end. All three of them, no, two of them were very qualified. And because Priscilla had experience working at the town clerk's office in Wolfboro, she got the nod.
I have a question. Before I ever vote for anybody, there's a personnel folder or at least a summary of, of what they've done. Is that available?
Right.
Okay.
Her curriculum vitae and whatever that thing's called. Work history, all that's available, so if you want to review it.
What I will do is, you're very good at these things. You know, I'll entertain your motion that we sign this, but I will go and just review it, so I'm vigilant. Is there a motion?
I'll move that we sign it.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0.
And I believe we were setting the payroll rate at the same rate that Jen was getting when she started. And then we'll have to review in September Jen's pay scale when she assumes the role of
Town clerk.
town clerk.
I'll have those notices of appointment for you at meeting on the 24th.
Okay. Next is a new item from Donna Lane, reference, it's an environmental form to be signed. Have you folks read this?
Yeah,
I read through it and I have no objection.
Yep. So, I'll move that we have the chairman sign.
I'll second. Okay.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. I have to sign it in one place or two places?
I think just one.
Okay. Next is a veterans permanent application for property tax credit for a veteran. The applicant meets all criteria. The recommendation is a $500 standard veterans credit effective 2020. Have you folks read it?
I'll move approval.
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0.
I think I'll hang this up on my calendar. I like the one with the covers.
Yeah.
Anything else to be signed, Karen? We need to take a break for a second or go on with correspondence?
No, finish it up. That's my position. Bill can overrule me.
Nice to see your bandage off.
You wanna keep going?
Yeah, that's fine. Yep.
Okay. Under correspondence, the first thing is, I received a telephone message at home from Attorney Randy Walker requesting information about the town's pending action on Wyland Road. He is representing a client, Steve Allen. I asked Karen to contact the attorney and obtain a list of questions that the town can respond to.
And did he come up with one?
I did not call yet, but I misunderstood your request. I thought you wanted to get their permission to do that, so I have not called yet.
Okay.
Sorry about that, I didn't do that today.
You know, I just want permission for her to do that. You know, I'm a little bit leery of me having conversations with people, so we don't go into the rock and sit them all over.
Yeah, yeah, no, well, and I suspect,
Yeah.
I know Steve is looking to sell a parcel there, and so there were some questions about this thing all, timing on what goes on and that sort of thing. So that may be what it's about, but
Yep.
yeah.
And there was nothing adverse comments. This is, this involves you, Bill, and Commissioner Caswell, BEA update. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah.
Does the unemployment security one?
Yes.
So what I was gonna ask is, against employment security is offering some municipalities, they know that there's trouble receiving applications for job openings, and they offer this service to post it on their website. I personally I know that Chip had some candidates potentially with the deputy town clerk and tax collector interview, but we haven't received any applications specifically for the openings we have now for conservation, helping in our office, and then, well, the police secretary, but that hasn't gone out yet.
Police, sector.
I'm wondering if I can put the ads on enhanced employment as well as Indeed. I think people do things online more now versus the food serving. And Andy mentioned maybe Craigslist, I don't know. I don't have any experience in Craigslist.
I guess my opinion is that posting job openings with the employment security and on Indeed is fine. But when, I don't think that's an appropriate place for volunteer position. This is paid jobs, right? It makes sense to put them on the employment security website, and if Indeed is a free service, sure.
All set on that?
Just getting the word out.
The next correspondence is a fellow named Rick, who commented about, we have to instruct Clay to contact Guilford on how to pull off a Saturday Island Trash Day. Have you read that?
Yeah, I saw that.
Okay. The next item of business is reviewed by all of you, is from Gene Kelly and Steve Wingate, who are talking about Libby Park. And I know that it needs to be surveyed. Needing
Well,
bids
one
on
line
that.
needs to be
Yeah.
a demarcation because the neighbor there.
Do we put that out to bid, or do we just contact a vendor, or what is your recommendation?
Well, do we have any other survey work going on? Steve's got some, I thought, down there in the,
So maybe it makes sense to have Steve Wingate involved in that conversation. If he's got something else for a surveyor to do,
Right.
you know, do another.
we had at one point a long protracted discussion about the perambulation requirement. I don't know.
Yes. We never got anything back from Moltenboro, yeah.
I think, Chip, you had a conversation was it Ospey or?
I had a conversation with,
I think it was, this was a long time ago, right?
yeah, but I had a conversation with,
Martha?
Handbrook up in Sandwich, because he had been involved in the Sandwich wilderness Moltenboro.
Well, that's remote.
And so he's familiar with how you do it. And that's sort of where I was looking for what's an appropriate number if we were to put something on a warrant article.
Right.
Yep.
Can you follow up on that? Next is from the Tuftonboro Selectmen to Bill Mackerson, reference assessment review meeting. This is Rod, Diane, and Philip Bodwell are meeting with DRA via telephone on August 5th at 9 a.m. Not sure if a selectman wants to join in or not.
Diane, exactly, Diane Moss. You know, on the call, we have to go to the.
That's Wednesday at 9, right?
Correct.
So I am not available at 9 on Wednesday.
I'm not available.
Yeah, I don't think I am either.
I think it will be fine either way, I don't want
Yeah.
to offer it to you.
So this is basically, if I remember the email correctly, is a sort of a kickoff to their review.
Well,
Right.
actually, the section will be Diane and I doing some legwork.
Right. But I mean, this is a initial meeting. They're reviewing the assessments this year that was done last year, the reassessment, right?
This meeting, I understand, is more for us to our fire, I understand what you mean, but I think this particular meeting is for our assessment, our 5-year review of the town, of our veterans, our elderly, and so forth.
Oh, okay. Yep. Okay.
I mean, I
could be wrong, but that's how
don't know if either of you did the math on those sales that came through Friday. But it was, you know, 5 sales and $180,000 worth of difference. In other words, the property sold for $180,000 more than their assessed value. It's about $30,000 sale under assessed on that group. So I think if we keep an eye on that, we can maybe diffuse some of this
Yep.
noise out in the community about overassessment.
Next item of business is Carroll County substance use disorder. There's a meeting Tuesday, August 4th at 9 a.m. It ends at 10:30 a.m.
That's a Zoom meeting?
Yes. Do you need the information?
Yeah.
Pass that down, Tom.
There you go.
Thank you, sir. Can I hold right on to this?
Can you write it out? Sure. You can have it if you want.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, because I need the address. The Zoom. Jeez.
Why don't you take that copy? Just
Okay, thanks.
The next, a couple of questions from the library. They're planning on having a raffle and checking in to ask if the Friends need a permit from the Selectmen to hold a 50-50 raffle by mail. The RSA covering the raffles are a little unclear. And also, have you had any issues with people refusing to mask up before coming into the office area? We're trying to plan for every eventuality.
So I'll be happy to weigh in on the mask issue, because I know that the issue was raised once we reopened the office and made the requirement that people wear masks to come inside. And we have had a little pushback, right? So it's kind of predictable from a few folks. But the town's services are available to somebody who doesn't want to wear a mask and come inside. They just can't come inside without the mask. And the library trustees can do the same thing with the library. I mean, you can check books out and they can put them on the bench outside. You can pick them up without having to mask up. But if you want to come inside the building and use all of the normal facilities that are inside, wearing a mask is not an unreasonable requirement. They're not preventing people from using library services. It's less convenient if you don't want to mask up, but
If you want to drive your car on the highway, you gotta have a driver's license.
right.
There are requirements for any number of activities in this
Yep.
world.
Yep.
We had are you done, Lloyd? I'm sorry.
Yes, we are.
Okay, we had a couple of things. A list of delinquent taxpayers. Do we want to get involved in that today?
Right
I
now.
have that scheduled for, I think, next Monday.
Next Monday, yeah,
Okay.
which is immediately prior to when they're going to be.
Then the second piece is Jim gave us cost estimates on Willand Road.
Right.
Do we have a preference? He's got all kinds of options going on here.
Well, what we talked about last time was within the budget that is being made available. Money's being made available by two individuals. You get a fair amount of it done. Not the entrance, and he makes a good point about the entrance being something that may need more than just going in with equipment and making things happen.
So $20,750 to do everything but the entrance.
Is that what it is? Okay.
Yeah, I just did the math.
Yep.
I might be off by $1, but
Right.
not many.
Right.
I know we're getting 10 grand from the,
We're getting 14
Oh, we're
grand
getting
from the two donors.
so that leaves us $6,750. I'm a little reluctant, and I'm just speaking for Chip, I'm a little reluctant to do a tax assessment.
Betterment.
On $6,700. I mean, it just doesn't
Yeah.
seem like it rises to the occasion.
Yeah.
And maybe it's a matter of just cutting back on one or two of these, like the culverts and the 12 loads of gravel. 12 loads of gravel for $500 is too much money. Just saying.
I have the following comments. If you're done. I was amazed when the Whitten project and what needed to be done for that intersection. down by Holmgren's.
Oh, okay, yeah, I'm sorry.
And the town wasn't responsible for this, but we ended up being sued by the neighbors.
Yeah.
I've only done a little bit of review. I went to Ben Eldridge, who was head of the DOT down here, the new guy, nice guy in the fire department, and he says, Lloyd, this is the Guilford office number right here. Why not call them and get what the requirements are for an intersection on, State Road?
Mm-hmm.
Like our driveway, there's some requirements. If I remember correctly, there's two other standards that need to be met. For example, when you come out to the stop sign, you need to be able to have visibility for every 100 feet for every 10 miles an hour the speed limit is. It had to be 400 feet both ways.
400 feet visibility.
You know, I don't know if you're gonna be able to get it or not. That's the road. The other thing is, you also have to check because trucks sit so much higher. That was the problem, that was the good fortune down there with the Whitten project, is trucks could see farther over the hills than cars could. So first of all, before we spend any money and have Jim go and start pecking here and pecking there, no, we need to know exactly what the situation is.
That's on the intersection to Willamette Road,
Yes.
correct?
The next thing is, I sat down with him and I said, do you have a truck that can plow that hill? Yeah, I think I do. And I said, you have a 10-wheeler that struggles to get into Canaan Valley, don't you? And you slide backwards every year. Oh, yes. I said, the reason why Durgan Road you do easier is the plow in the wing is sanding as you go downhill. And you know, you're a truck driver, and you're pushing 1.5 lanes of snow. So when you're coming back up, you're only plowing a third of a lane of snow. And I said, Phineas Graves Road, how many times a year do one of your smaller plows get stuck on that road? A couple times every year.
Yeah, I don't know that we can mitigate that problem.
Then I asked him, where is the money in your budget this year to take on another road plowing project? Well, I don't know. I guess I'll have to make it up somewhere.
Well,
and he explained to me that he goes out and he plows every road 3 times. Once to break it open during the storm, and then after the storm, and then he goes back, things melt and all that. He estimates that's a 2-hour round trip for a truck. That's 2 hours they aren't working someplace else.
are you suggesting we don't take the road over?
No, I asked him, can we get creative? Could we ask the current guy to plow the road and we either pay him or offer to give him write a letter, thank you for your donation to the town? Now I'm gonna take a step back. I want the project done. But when I talked to Jim about it, I said, the first thing is you've got to take the trees and the stumps out so you can work on the banks, right? He goes, yeah. I said, and then you got to move the banks back, and what happens when you bump into a ledge? Gee, you're right there. I mean, we're talking well over $100,000 project here.
No, we're not.
Well, let's stop and think about it.
Okay,
Let me finish. I'll answer your question.
Okay, go ahead.
Let's take the other hills that are similar to that hill there. Canaan Road. Yeah, took a lot of work. Sam Colby did it.
It's still a steep hill.
That's right. Mm-hmm. But it's manageable and the ice and snow are off it. Let's take Pork Hill Road. Let's take Cops Pond Road. Let's take into Winter Circle. A lot of work was put into those roads. They aren't dirt. Look at Phineas Graves Road and Curtis Road. We spend over $100,000 every 2 years just blowing leaves and putting the ditches back in and putting gravel in. You know.
Yeah, we'd be better off paving them.
Yes. Well, this is what Wolfrow did years ago over on Beach Pond Road. The 2 steep hills they paved.
Yeah.
and they can get a fire truck and an ambulance and a snowplow, you know, within reason there. You know, I want the project done right. I also want to meet the spirit of what the town meeting voted on. I'm trying to juggle the two. Thank you.
Well, clearly, if we're turning it into a $100,000 project, there's plenty there for a betterment assessment. But, you know, as I look at what's on his list here, one of these is a culvert crossing a driveway. That's the property owner's responsibility, not the town's.
Right.
But the other stuff is all areas to bring it up to speed. So, what did you say the total was?
$20,750.
Okay.
Did you happen to see that 8,500 too for tree removal? I just noticed that myself, so.
What's that?
Did you happen to see that other 8,500 at the bottom, the second page for trees? I just noticed it myself.
Oh, yeah, I didn't see that.
Okay.
So that's 29,250.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, when he does that. So, I'm thinking the entrance is gonna take 10 grand.
10 grand, yep.
Now you're at 39,250.
Yep.
These estimates are wags.
Well,
Are wags. They are wild-ass guesses.
yeah.
You're in the construction business for 3 generations.
I mean, I know that he's gonna run over that number. It happens.
So I'm not sure what you're suggesting, Lloyd.
The suggestion is, first of all, I think we have a moral obligation to move the snow this winter until the new budget comes out.
And not to wing it until we can budget it?
That's correct.
So you're saying use the 14 grand to plow snow?
Yes.
I disagree with that.
Okay.
I think the 14 grand at the very least goes into.
Where is the money to plow snow?
Well, he's just gonna have to put it together. He knew we were gonna have this warrant article
Right.
before the budget came out. You know?
So,
And he's got plenty of money to plow the snow. You get contractors, and you're talking about asking Skip if he'd do it.
Sure, I contract with him.
You know, it still costs you money.
Yes.
one way or the other.
right. So,
Basically, what happens is, and I've been doing his budgets for a program audit I work with him on, it's basically 60% of the budget is, winter plowing is basically 60% December 31st on, 40% is for the fall.
Right.
If you look at, his current budget,
Just happen to have it.
yes, his winter budget has spent 60%. He's right on the 40% mark.
Yep.
And that's for the roads we currently have.
right.
It's not adding 2 hours times 3 times of snow times 22 snow incidents.
Wait, you can't count 22,
So,
because his revenue or his money, once again, at January 1st, it all changes back. Now he's working on the projected budget
well,
for the next year.
the benefit to having the maintenance done, the winter maintenance done by the road crew is by the end of the year, he's gonna have a better handle on what that road takes in addition to what he's doing now. So it's, you know, we've got to find the money to do it and just make the provision next year to include any additionals beyond what was in there this year to compensate for doing that.
Well, this is the issue I have. He's already $14,000 over on one account. So where does he come up with the money in his budget?
How often, I guess, you know, in a perfect world, that would be absolutely true, but how often does he run over budget on his whole budget?
Of the last 9 years.
Yeah. Okay, so we're not without experience of having no money left in the budget and still doing work. It's just up to us to find the money at that juncture.
I have no problem with the road agent being like every other department head. Hey, my machine at the dump has broken. I'm gonna need my generator is broken. I'm gonna need $15,000 to fix it. And the department head comes in and speaks to us, and we knowingly put our heads together and find it. Last year, what happened is, and I'll show you the figures, with 2.5 weeks to go in December, we were sitting good, $42,000 in the budget. On January 10th, we came and sat at a selectmen's meeting, and not only had he spent the $42,000, he spent another $29,000 in 3 weeks. Well, I had to buy sand 2 days before New Year's. Should have an issue with that.
I can't litigate the past. It just isn't happening. But I think maybe a better question would be to talk to Sager and say, can we put the 14 or 10 of the 14 or some portion of it into a capital account and then figure out over the course of this winter by having Jim plow the snow what it's actually going to need.
Yes.
And then create a warrant article that would be paid by a betterment assessment.
Yes.
So
I'm
here's,
trying to balance.
here's my thought. We have the donated money coming in to do the work. Do that work this year. Spend that money. And then the additional money that it is going to take to finish out the improvements for better maintainability, we deal with next year.
And where do we come up with the plowing money?
It just comes out of our hide, just like it always does. We are not going to not plow it, in my opinion. We are not going to foist it off on somebody else to do. We're not going to take the money that's being donated to bring the road up to standards in these areas and use it to plow with. We'll do like we always do, which is spend what has to be spent and get it done.
We haven't, I mean, there are other monies coming in, federal money, state money, et cetera, that we haven't talked about.
Right, right.
Yeah, I guess I'm in agreement to spend money and do the upgrades that we can do for $14,000. The only thing that troubles me or concerns me is that at some juncture, before you put the spade in the ground, we have to vote to take the road back into Class 5. At that point, we need to make sure all bets are not off. I mean, if we want to, let's say in December, we come up with this notion that we need to raise $50,000 to actually do the road right. And we want to do a betterment. We don't want to have precluded doing that because we took the road over. I mean, I don't know what the timing involves when you need to do a betterment.
Yep. So, and my opinion, but I'm not an attorney and I didn't play one on TV, so take that to the bank for what it is that we can, I believe we can accept that money and do some of the work on it before we have reclassed it to Class 5. I don't know.
I don't think we can do that.
Yeah.
I don't think we can spend public money, if it comes public money, once we accept it on a Class 6 road, unless it's for safety.
Yeah.
But we can check with Sager. I think we could get just a schedule of.
The municipal association answer that question?
I can start with them. So it's just as easy to plow the road, it's not getting it all the way to full car, or Class 5. Like if you want to know, you can still do that over the winter until the Class 5 is complete. No?
Spend the $14,000 before we reclassify the road.
So, right, so this is a different question than I think we got a good answer to the question last week. But this is a different question. This is a question that, somebody is providing a donation toward improvements on the road to bring it up to Class 5 status. And can we use those donations to do that work before the road is reclassified?
I understand, okay, thank you. And while I did notice too, another kind of budget item that was in a different fund and others too, was to excavate ditch lines of
Yep.
18.5, so we're at 57,750 with the entrance. Because I noticed that too.
Well,
with the entrance.
Yeah, right.
And we don't even know, I don't think he can give us a number of the entrance without getting the state.
well,
into
right,
the-
that's,
into the-
those are estimates.
I mean, we can leave it just the way it is. It's a town road going onto a state road,
Right,
different story.
right.
But we need to make it,
I'll give you the number for the Guilford office, okay? Karen,
I think I have that.
524.
Do you want me to call the Guilford office and ask?
Yes.
Okay, sure.
I also have some other,
Okay, 524, you can actually collect in case I.
6667.
Okay.
I also have Ben Eldridge's phone number, if you ever needed to leave a message at the station. Anything else under Selectmen's update?
so we're gonna start, I think it's, this week or the first day next week, we're gonna have a budget meeting. Budget committee meeting next week.
The Wednesday the 12th.
Oh.
Could you please go back to correspondence about the raffle for the library? Did they
Oh.
do anything special? I remember this coming up in the package.
Another question for the municipal association.
Was BudCom Tuesday?
I'm sorry,
BudCom,
Wednesday next week.
Wednesday,
the date?
12,
6:30.
6:30. And then,
And here?
here,
We haven't made a solid plan, but I think if anything, it'll be either here or highway meeting, so.
right. Right. And I've already started on the health insurance, or I am. It's gonna be an argument this year.
Yes.
And I wanna argue the case now.
You had a question about,
The raffle, like you said, it's.
Raffle, but I think,
do we have a problem with the raffle?
no, I think she needs to check with the municipal association about whether or not you can do a mailing raffle. Legally.
Yep.
If they can, you know.
And the mask issue is already, is
we-
law
we
under
decided-
41.
We decided that.
For us,
Right.
and the library trustees can decide it for the library.
Yeah, we can say it's a townwide policy, but they have to make that election.
Because they control their facility, right? But there's, I can't see any reason why they cannot do exactly the same thing, and,
As long as they provide an alternative so people can do business.
which
Just
is already in
like
place.
cited.
Having that there,
Yeah,
you know, somebody shows up, they wanna go in.
right,
They don't wanna drive home and then come back.
right.
Don't get me started about the Second Amendment.
Yes.
Keep looking at the
Anything
camp thing.
you have for, Selectmen's update?
No, I've been out of town, so.
Okay. Well, welcome back.
Good for you.
Yeah,
You have the Guilford office?
Yes, thank you.
I took the liberty of meeting the, neighbors, introducing myself. And I'm the first person from Tufton Borough to set foot on their property.
The neighbors of who?
And on the Dearborn property,
Oh,
the new police station. I can recommend to you, they were pleasant, they're pro-police, they're pro-building. It makes them feel safer having the building there. This discussion about this vast wetland that was on the map, they say that that's not accurate.
I should have you actually go through the process with DES of filling that wetland.
I'm willing to do the following.
Okay.
I'm willing to, when you talk to Guilford, make an appointment, and whoever the appropriate person is, I'll walk the property and get determinations from them of what our options are, and I'll report back to the Board of Selectmen.
Now, just to clarify, I'm calling the Guilford Highway Department to ask about the entrance onto Willing Road, correct?
Yes, that's,
And then
that's their bosses, the Guilford Regional Office.
And would DES be the person who wants to
Excuse me,
do
no.
wetlands?
No, Guilford.
All right, but
It's their culverts.
Okay.
but you're talking about the and that's not the highway.
I will not quiz them on the wetland. I won't mention the word wetland. I will ask them, how can we legally extend the culvert?
Okay.
And they'll
Safely.
somebody,
Well, I will tell you.
I think I should just say, enjoy the trip.
Yes. I know that 4 years ago, where the barn was in Tuftonboro, 171, I asked, when that barn comes down, we want to extend the culvert that was off to one side of it. And the guy who's retired since then looked at it and said, Lloyd, the only requirements from the state of New Hampshire is, because that's on your property, is you have to extend the culvert the same, at least the same diameter and the same material pipe. I said, well, that's 80 years old, and he said, they still make it, it's concrete reinforced, and you can extend it as far across your property as you want, as long as it's 2% flow, you know, like that. Now, it may have changed in the last 4 years, so that's where I'm coming from, like that, and I'll do it on my dime. Federal Corners Road, I'd also like to talk to the gentleman, in talking with the state. Water comes down both sides. Federal Corner Road, intersection with 109A.
Right.
And you are correct. Both sides need attention.
Yeah.
And I'd like to talk to them about that, because we're going to be dumping water into their catch basins.
Right.
When I last talked to them years ago, they didn't have a problem with that, but like that. Jim says he's going to start with the swale on Durgan Road in August, but it means moving all that water that has been seeping into the road down the culvert, into the catch basin, through the culvert that is damaged. He just did some grading and ditch work, and the culvert is just down from that stop sign on Ledge Hill Road. Culvert's damaged. And I want to ask the state guy, if we are going to be moving more water through your catch basin, which we have permission, it's going to be coming down Ledge Hill Road, what would you recommend we do for remedial work there? Okay? The next is, this morning, Captain Pike asked me to mention to the Board of Selectmen that a dry hydrant is going in at the new bridge New Road Bridge up by Del Haley's.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm sorry, could you repeat that, please? I didn't.
Captain Pike of Tuftonboro Fire Rescue Department wanted me to tell the selectmen that a new dry hydrant is going in today and tomorrow on the bridge on New Road across from Haley's.
On the Melvin River. Yep.
Yep. And I have this for you. Any other business? Do we have any non-public that you need us to? Do you have anything? Do you have anything? No. Well, I missed it by 16 minutes. We were out of here 1 minute before 11 last week, or 2 weeks ago. Anything else for the Board of Selectmen's office?
Oh, should we invite, I realize it's a little past, but should we invite representatives from Belknap to come in and answer the charges?
I have no problem with that. What are your thoughts? I'll go either way.
There's nothing we can do about the actions, because it's planning board and CBA, but I'm wondering if we don't do anything, that would be not looking like we're trying.
Well, my name is mud already, because I wouldn't let people speak for the third time.
Yeah. So,
I'd like to think about it, okay?
Yeah. I mean, there was no new information in what they presented today, to me.
To you, but you're.
Yeah, and so, do think that conversation about camp change day, you know, might be productive. I mean, maybe it's appropriate that they hire a detail on change day so that you got an officer out there in case there's any local guy that doesn't realize he might run head-on into something.
A head-on 15-mile-an-hour collision is pretty dangerous stuff.
You know, so I mean, I don't see the conversation hurts,
Yeah, I mean, I think there are enough of them here, and there was a loud enough complaint. I am less persuaded by people that move into a problem than people who find a problem moving into them. But maybe this camp's pushing the envelope a little bit, I don't know. But I think we need to hear both sides.
Yep. You set it up, Karen? Yep. Maybe give them a copy of the minutes or where it is on the tape so they can.
Yeah, they're not doing anything from the camp down there.
Right, it's.
And
they're busy this year, but not with campers.
right.
Yeah.
Right.
So, yeah.
If you're gonna defend the Second Amendment, by all means, train children how the safe operation of weapons.
Right, exactly.
So, enough of this.
I have one thing to add, and it just came to me. Last week, I saw an engineer measuring for a crosswalk at Pier 19. And through the grapevine, this citizen who stepped up and is willing to install the sidewalk there that meets all state requirements. And I made another phone call, and the state says, well, because it's a citizen willing to do it, we're not offering any resistance.
So elected officials, they resist.
I just said thank
That's a
you.
wonderful.
I just said thank you very much.
Well, one of the things that I remember before is that in order for them to allow it, the town had to sign off on it, that included taking responsibility for maintenance of it, the cost of maintenance. Now, they do the maintenance, but they bill the town for it, so.
I have nothing in writing. This is just all word of.
So if they come to us with an agreement for us to sign, then I think that's.
Sure.
So if a citizen decides they want to paint the highway green, it's okay.
So I guess what I'm hearing maybe is that a private crosswalk that meets the state's requirements for which the individual signs off that they're gonna do the maintenance, that works.
Oh, it's a work in progress, but.
Maybe it's a toll crosswalk.
There you go.
That's a moneymaker.
Well, 2 weekends ago, it was dangerous down there.
Yeah, we should have I mean,
Yes.
you have ice cream shop, beach. It doesn't take a brain surgeon to figure out it's gonna be pedestrian.
You have a motion?
I'm gonna move that we close up shop.
I'll second.
Meet here again in a week.
There is no discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye.